After 11 years of love, Sophia discovered the ultimate betrayal. But betrayal isn't the end. It's the start of her revenge. Don't miss this gripping story of heartbreak, revenge, and redemption. Liam Chu and I went to the Civil Affairs office. The sky was bright and clear, with a gentle breeze playing with my hair. Out of habit, Liam reached out to fix it, the way he always used to. The clerk greeted us with a bright smile. "Congratulations. Are you here to register your marriage?" "No," I corrected, my voice firm but calm. "We're here for a divorce." Her cheerful expression faltered, replaced by a look of shock. She hesitated, as if hoping she had misunderstood, before directing us to a private office. The manager inside asked politely, "What's the reason for your divorce?" Liam stayed silent, his lips pressed into a thin line. Feeling the awkward tension, I answered for him. "Incompatibility," I said flatly. "We've grown apart." It was a polite excuse, of course. The real reason: Liam had someone else, someone he was desperate to protect. She was a barista at the cafe below his office. He spoiled her with expensive gifts, drove her to work, nursed her when she was sick, and even funded her personal projects. To him, she was the perfect little princess. As for me, I agreed to the divorce without hesitation. "I don't need leftovers that others have touched," I thought bitterly. The marriage certificate, slightly yellowed with time, lay on the desk as the clerk hesitated, her voice shaking. "You've been together for so long. Are you sure you want to end it like this?" "I'm busy. Just hurry up," Liam said coldly, his sharp tone silencing the room. Within 30 minutes, the papers were signed, and we each walked away with a stamped form confirming the cooling-off period before the divorce was finalized. As we stepped outside, Liam hesitated for a moment. "Sophia, where do you want to go? I'll drive you," he offered. I didn't argue. He drove us to the car park and, out of habit, opened the door for me. For a moment, I instinctively reached for the passenger seat handle, but then I stopped myself. Remembering the reality of our situation, I moved to the back seat without a word. His face stiffened, but he said nothing. "Can you turn up the heat? It's too cold," I said curtly, breaking the silence. He handed me a packet of tissues instead. I refused to meet his gaze through the rearview mirror, but I noticed the slight tension in his hands gripping the steering wheel. We had grown up together, childhood friends who turned into lovers. For years, he was the shy, scrawny boy that everyone bullied, and I was the one who fiercely protected him. I still remembered standing on the school intercom, announcing to the entire kindergarten that Liam Chu was under my protection. But those days were long gone. The Liam of today wasn't the same boy who used to hide behind me. "Sophia, let me explain everything to our parents," Liam said, after a long pause. "There's no need," I replied bluntly. "It's not your problem anymore." He frowned at my tone, but I had no intention of softening it. When we reached my destination, I stepped out of the car without looking back. It wasn't until his car disappeared from view that my knees buckled, sweat poured down my face, and I had to lean against a nearby lamppost to steady myself. The marriage certificate, slightly yellowed with time, lay on the desk as the clerk hesitated, her voice filled with uncertainty. "You've been together for so long. Are you sure you want to end it like this?" "I'm busy. Just hurry up," Liam said coldly, his sharp words cutting through the tension in the room. Within 30 minutes, the papers were signed, and we each walked away with a stamped form confirming the cooling-off period before the divorce was finalized. As we stepped outside, Liam hesitated. "Sophia, where do you want to go? I'll drive you," he offered, his voice unusually soft. I didn't bother to argue. He drove us to the car park, opened the door for me, and waited. Out of habit, I instinctively reached for the passenger seat handle, but then reality hit me like a brick. Without a word, I moved to the back seat, putting a deliberate distance between us. His face stiffened, and his hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Can you turn up the heat?" "It's too cold," I said curtly, breaking the silence. He handed me a packet of tissues instead. I refused to meet his gaze through the rearview mirror, but I could sense the tension radiating from him. Liam Chu and I had grown up together. For years, he had been the shy, scrawny boy everyone bullied, and I was his fiercest protector. I still remembered standing on the school intercom, boldly announcing to the entire kindergarten that Liam Chu was under my protection. But those days were long gone. The Liam of today wasn't the same boy who used to hide behind me. Sophia, let me explain everything to our parents, Liam said, after a long pause. There's no need, I replied bluntly. It's not your problem anymore. He frowned at my tone, his jaw tightening, but I had no intention of softening it. When we reached my destination, I stepped out of the car without looking back. The sound of the car door closing behind me felt final, like the ending of a chapter I had been reluctant to finish. It wasn't until his car disappeared from view that I felt the weight of everything crashing down on me. My knees buckled, and I leaned against a nearby lamppost for support. 2 months ago, everything changed. Liam had called me in a panic, claiming he had forgotten an important document at home. Eager to help, I rushed to his office. That day, a speeding truck swerved into my lane, and my car was crushed in the collision. 2 months ago, everything changed. Liam had called me in a panic that morning, claiming he had forgotten an important document at home. Eager to help, I rushed to his office without hesitation. But on the way, a speeding truck swerved into my lane. There was no time to react. The impact was devastating. My car was crushed, the metallic screeching of twisted steel echoing in my ears. Pain exploded through my body as darkness began to creep in. I woke up in a hospital bed, my left leg shattered and bandaged in thick casts. The sterile smell of antiseptics burned my nose as I blinked away tears of frustration and pain. Liam's face wasn't there when I opened my eyes. His voice wasn't the one I heard comforting me. Instead, it was silence, deafening silence. In my haze of pain and confusion, I dialed his number over and over again. Each time, it went straight to voicemail. Days later, I found out why. Luna Shu, his precious little angel, had casually mentioned she'd never seen doves in France. That one remark was enough for Liam to drop everything and fly her to Paris for a week-long vacation. While I endured surgery and grueling physical therapy, Liam was sipping wine under the Eiffel Tower. The man I had given everything to didn't even know about the accident until weeks later. My parents demanded answers, furious at his neglect. But I lied to protect him. I told them he was busy with work, that he didn't mean to be absent. It wasn't for his sake. I just couldn't bear the humiliation of admitting the truth. The only person who stayed by my side through it all was Lisa Lin, my best friend since college. She held my hand through every painful step of recovery, from learning to walk again to accepting the reality of my broken marriage. It was during one of those dark nights, sitting alone in my hospital room, that I made a decision. Liam Chu was no longer the man I needed in my life. The results stared back at me, printed in bold letters, pregnant, 13 weeks. I sat there in silence, my mind blank. For years, Liam and I had tried for a child, with no success. We endured countless tests, treatments, and disappointments. And now, when everything between us was over, life decided to throw this at me. The doctor's voice broke through my thoughts. "Congratulations, Ms. Taylor. Based on your blood work, everything looks healthy." Healthy. The word felt foreign. I wasn't sure if I could consider anything in my life healthy right now. "Doctor," I said, my voice trembling, "I'd like to schedule a procedure." The words tasted bitter, but I couldn't imagine raising a child tied to Liam. The man who had chosen someone else over me, who had abandoned me in my darkest moments. As I stepped out of the hospital, clutching the papers in my hand, I froze. Standing at the entrance was Liam, and, of course, Luna, clinging to his arm like a trophy. She looked as pale and delicate as ever, her entire demeanor crafted to invoke sympathy. At first, I tried to walk away unnoticed, but Liam's voice stopped me. "Sophia, what are you doing here?" he demanded, his tone sharp and suspicious. Before I could answer, Luna stepped behind him, clutching his arm tighter. Liam, she's been following us, she whined, her voice trembling with mock fear. I let out a bitter laugh. Follow you? Don't flatter yourself, I snapped. I've been here for a checkup. Not that it's any of your business. Liam's expression darkened. Sophia, don't make this harder than it needs to be. And you, I said, turning my glare to Luna. Don't underestimate me. Before either of them could respond, a familiar voice called out my name. Sophia. I turned to see Dr. Ethan approaching with his usual warm smile. He had been my primary doctor throughout my recovery, and his kindness had been a rare comfort during those dark times. How's your recovery going? He asked, his tone genuine. Better, thanks to you, I replied with a small smile. Liam's eyes narrowed as he looked between us, his jealousy barely concealed. Who is he? And why does he know so much about you? Ignoring him, I continued chatting with Ethan, grateful for the distraction. When I finally walked away, I could feel Liam's eyes burning into my back. Later that night, as I lay in bed, I clutched the ultrasound image tightly. My mind replayed the doctor's words over and over again. The next morning, I made my decision. The next morning, I walked into the hospital with a heavy heart. Dr. Ethan greeted me with his usual kind smile. Are you sure about this, Sophia? He asked gently, his eyes filled with concern. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. Words wouldn't make this decision easier. The procedure was quick, but the emotional toll lingered long after. When I was wheeled out of the operating room, my body felt lighter, but my heart was weighed down with regret and anger. As the nurse helped me into a recovery room, I thought I saw a familiar figure standing at the end of the hallway. My vision was blurry from exhaustion, but the silhouette was unmistakable. Liam. He was gone in the blink of an eye, leaving me unsure if he had really been there, or if my mind was playing tricks on me. Days passed, and I cut off all communication with Liam. No calls, no messages. For someone who once accused me of being clingy, my absence seemed to weigh on him more than I expected. A week later, I arrived home late from work. I hadn't been staying at my house much since the separation. It was too full of memories I wanted to forget. But that night, I walked into a scene that made my blood boil. Liam was there, standing in the living room, holding Luna in his arms, like she was a fragile doll. The sight was sickening. Excuse me, I said sharply, stepping into the room. What are you doing here? Liam turned, his face pale. Sophia, why are you still here? I crossed my arms, my voice cold. This is my house. Did you forget? Luna, who had been wearing her usual smug smile, faltered under my glare. I brushed past them, heading straight to my bedroom to grab a few things. But Liam wasn't done. Sophia, what's with the outfit? He asked, his tone accusatory. I stopped in my tracks, turning to face him. What about it? Are you meeting someone? His voice was sharp, almost demanding, and he took a step closer, as if trying to intimidate me. Before he could say another word, I slapped him hard across the face. Don't you dare act like you have the right to question me, I snapped, my voice shaking with fury. You're the one who brought her into our home, and you're accusing me of being inappropriate. Liam staggered back, stunned. I turned on my heel and walked toward the door, but Luna couldn't resist one last jab. Sophia, she called sweetly. You look amazing. Do you have a date tonight? I turned, grabbed a glass of water from the counter, and splashed it in her face. The next time you open your mouth, make sure it's worth my time, I said coldly, watching as her smug expression turned into one of pure shock. Without another word, I left the house, leaving both of them standing there, speechless. That night, after leaving my house and its ghost behind, I met up with Lisa Lynn, my closest ally and fiercest supporter. Sophia, it's time, Lisa said, pouring me a glass of wine. No more waiting, no more holding back. Let's show Liam what life is like without you. I smiled, the first genuine smile in weeks. You're right, I said, raising my glass. It's time for him to see how far he'll fall. The next morning, Lisa and I got to work. Over the years, I had quietly built a network of connections, people who owed me favors, respected me, or trusted my judgment. Many of these people were also key players in Liam's business empire. What Liam never realized was that his success wasn't entirely his own. His most lucrative deals and most reliable partners had come through me. And now, I was ready to remind them of that. I hosted a private gathering at an upscale lounge, inviting some of Liam's biggest clients and investors. The room buzzed with chatter as I walked in, my presence immediately commanding attention. As the conversations quieted, I addressed the group. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice steady. "I wanted to personally inform you that I've decided to withdraw my support for Liam Chu's ventures." The room fell silent. One of the investors, Mr. Jenkins, raised an eyebrow. "Sophia, that's quite a bold move. What prompted this decision?" "Loyalty works both ways," I replied calmly. "For years, I supported Liam when he needed me most. But it's clear I'm no longer a part of his life or his plans. I'm simply returning the favor." A ripple of understanding spread through the room. These were people who valued loyalty, trust, and integrity, qualities Liam had long since abandoned. Over the next few days, the ripple effect began. Contracts were canceled, partnerships dissolved, and funding evaporated. Liam's once thriving empire started to crumble, one piece at a time. Meanwhile, I sold my shares in his company at a significant profit, ensuring my own financial stability. Liam, desperate to salvage what he could, called me repeatedly to negotiate. During one of these calls, his voice was uncharacteristically subdued. "Sophia," he began, "I know we've had our differences, but please, don't do this. We can find a way to fix things." I let out a bitter laugh. "This isn't about fixing anything, Liam. It's about accountability. And you lost yours a long time ago." By the end of the week, rumors of financial instability began circulating in the business world. Liam's carefully constructed image as a successful entrepreneur was unraveling. But this was only the beginning. The fallout from my decision hit Liam faster than I had anticipated. Within days, his company spiraled into chaos. Employees began resigning in droves, suppliers refused to deliver, and clients pulled out of major deals without a second thought. The empire he had so carefully built was crumbling, and the cracks were visible for all to see. One evening, as I sipped tea in the comfort of my new apartment, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting visitors, but when I opened the door, I was met with a sight I hadn't seen in years. Liam stood there, his face pale and gaunt, his eyes filled with a mixture of desperation and shame. He was no longer the confident man I had once loved. "Sophia," he said quietly, his voice trembling, "we need to talk." I crossed my arms and leaned against the door frame, my expression unreadable. "What's left to talk about, Liam?" He hesitated, his hands fidgeting nervously. "It's Luna," he finally blurted out. "She's gone. She took a large sum of money and disappeared. I reported her to the police, but it's too late." A bitter smile tugged at the corners of my lips. "I warned you, Liam. You chose her over me, and now you're paying the price." His shoulders slumped, the weight of his choices pressing down on him. "You don't understand," he muttered, his voice breaking. "She wasn't just after the money. She got rid of the baby, too." The bitterness in my smile faded, replaced by a flicker of shock, but I quickly masked it, refusing to let him see any sign of sympathy. "And what does that have to do with me?" I asked, my tone cold. "The choices you made are yours alone to bear." He looked at me, his eyes pleading. "Sophia, can't we fix this? Can't we go back to how things were?" I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound that echoed through the hallway. "Go back? To what, Liam? To you treating me like an afterthought? To you throwing away everything we built for someone who didn't even care about you?" His lips parted, but no words came out. He had nothing to say, nothing that could undo the damage. "Liam," I said, my voice softening slightly, "you had your chance. You chose your path. Now I've chosen mine. With that, I closed the door firmly, leaving him on the other side. Days turned into weeks, and the rumors about Liam's downfall spread like wildfire. His company was declared bankrupt, his assets were seized, and his reputation as a brilliant entrepreneur was tarnished beyond repair. For years, Liam had built himself up as a man of success and power. Now he was nothing more than a cautionary tale. As for me, I thrived. With the help of Lisa and Dr. Ethan, I began building my own business, one founded on resilience, integrity, and hard work. Every step forward felt like a step away from the shadows of my past. Months passed, and Liam's name slowly faded from conversations. His once thriving company was no more. His assets had been auctioned off, and his reputation was nothing but a distant memory. One afternoon, as I sat in my new office, overlooking the bustling city, Lisa called me with her signature mischievous tone. "Sophia, guess who's been spotted back in your old neighborhood?" she teased. "Liam?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Yep," she confirmed. "Word is, he bought a small plot of land in the cemetery there, built a grave for the child he never had." I froze, the weight of her words pressing down on me. "A grave?" I whispered. "But why?" Lisa sighed. "Apparently, he convinced himself it was a girl. He even named her. It's heartbreaking, in a way." A strange mixture of emotions swirled in my chest: anger, pity, and something I couldn't quite name. But I quickly pushed it aside. "That's his burden to bear," I said firmly. "I've moved on." Life moved forward in leaps and bounds. With Lisa's unwavering support and Dr. Ethan's steady presence, I began to rebuild. Not just my career, but also my sense of self-worth. Ethan and I grew closer with each passing day. His patience and kindness were the balm I hadn't realized I needed. Together, we poured our energy into expanding our business, traveling across the country, and forging partnerships that were built on trust and mutual respect. One evening, Ethan surprised me with a quiet dinner at home. As we sat on the balcony overlooking the city lights, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Sophia," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You've been through so much, and yet you've come out stronger than ever. I've been lucky enough to walk beside you through this journey, and I want to keep doing so for the rest of our lives." He opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant ring. "Will you marry me?" Tears filled my eyes as I nodded, unable to find the words. For the first time in years, my heart felt full. Truly full. Our wedding was a grand affair, despite my protests to keep it simple. "It's your first wedding with me," Ethan had joked, "and that's all that matters." The ceremony was beautiful, surrounded by people who had supported me through every step of my journey. But among the sea of smiling faces, I thought I saw a shadow of someone familiar. A figure stood at the edge of the crowd, watching from a distance. When I turned for a closer look, they were gone. I knew it was Liam. Life after the wedding felt like a dream. With Ethan by my side, every day was filled with purpose, laughter, and a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. We built a future together, one that wasn't tied to the shadows of the past. Our business flourished, gaining recognition for its integrity and innovative ideas. For the first time in my life, I felt truly in control, not just of my career, but of my happiness. But despite moving forward, Liam's shadow occasionally lingered in the corners of my life. Whispers of his name would surface from old acquaintances, each story adding another layer to his fall from grace. One evening, Lisa called me with news. Her voice was filled with intrigue. "Sophia, you'll never believe what I just found out," she said, barely able to contain herself. "What is it now?" I asked, half amused. "Liam filed a police report against Luna. Turns out, she's a professional scammer with a long list of victims. She's been sentenced to 2 years in prison." I let out a soft laugh. I guess he finally learned his lesson. "But that's not all," Lisa continued. "His parents left the neighborhood too. They couldn't handle the disgrace of everything he's done. The news didn't surprise me. Liam had burned every bridge he once had, leaving him utterly alone. That evening, as I stood on the balcony overlooking the city, Ethan joined me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with quiet concern. I nodded, leaning into him. "It's just, hearing about Liam makes me realize how far I've come, and how much I've gained." He smiled, pressing a kiss to my temple. "You've built a life you deserve, Sophia. Don't let the past weigh you down." I gazed out at the glittering skyline, the city alive with endless possibilities. For the first time in years, I truly let go of the lingering resentment and pain. Liam's story was no longer a part of mine. Years had passed since my divorce, and the life I had built felt like something out of a dream. Ethan and I had turned our small business into a flourishing empire. Together, we created something not just profitable, but meaningful. A company rooted in honesty and resilience. It stood as a testament to how far I had come and how much I had grown. One quiet autumn morning, as I prepared breakfast, Ethan walked into the kitchen with his phone in hand. His expression was cautious, as if he wasn't sure how I'd react to what he was about to say. "Sophia," he began, "you might want to see this." He handed me his phone, and my eyes scanned the headline. "Former CEO Liam Chu declares bankruptcy." The article detailed the complete collapse of Liam's ventures. His employees had deserted him, his investors had withdrawn, and every asset he had left was liquidated. Once a promising entrepreneur, Liam was now a cautionary tale of pride and betrayal. I read through it without a flicker of emotion. When I finished, I handed the phone back to Ethan and simply said, "It's in the past." Ethan smiled, his eyes full of admiration. "You've really moved on." "I have," I replied, my voice steady, and for the first time I felt the truth in those words. Months later, on a crisp winter morning, I received an unexpected letter. The handwriting on the envelope was unmistakable. It was from Liam. I hesitated for a moment before opening it. Inside was a single handwritten page. "Sophia, I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness. I destroyed everything we had, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Watching you walk away was the hardest thing I've ever experienced, but I know I deserved it. Thank you for everything you gave me, even when I didn't deserve it. I hope you found the happiness I couldn't give you. Take care of yourself. Liam." I folded the letter and set it aside. There was no anger, no sadness, just a quiet sense of closure. Liam was a part of my past, a chapter that had long since ended. That evening, as Ethan and I sat on the balcony overlooking the city, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. "To new beginnings," I said, raising my glass. Ethan clinked his glass against mine. "To us," he replied, his voice filled with love and certainty. And with that, I closed the book on my past, ready to embrace everything the future had to offer. As I looked out at the city lights, I realized something profound. Life doesn't wait for anyone to save you. You save yourself. And for the first time, I felt truly free. Don't forget to subscribe to Tiny Storytime for more thrilling stories.